Yeah, man. So again, thanks for hopping on the podcast and everything. Um, I was new to your music and all that, but like I said, when I started deep diving, I liked that when it was on kind of random. It was random, you know.
Yeah, it's very random.
But is that by intent, or is that just the way that it fell at the time?
Uh, I think the only intention that we really have is like to do what we like, and we like a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
So we try to incorporate all different kinds of things. We've gotten told by a lot of people that we should just pick a lane, but we for whatever reason haven't done that yet. We kind of enjoy what we're doing.
Man, I understand completely. Um, in a different, completely different situation, but yeah, like promoting music and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I like to. I'm just a barroom, corner stage musician, but I still like to play on TikTok too.
Yeah, man.
And I've been suggested that I should stop playing that just do the podcast. I'm like, man, whatever.
Yeah, no reason for all that.
No,
If
it's
that's what they want to do, they can. They got it. I'm going to keep doing, and we're going to keep doing what we've been doing because we enjoy it. And at this point, we're working on our third album right now. I mean, we're not mega famous, so if we're not mega famous now, maybe we will be in the future. Maybe we won't. But at this point, we're already too far into it to like try and change what we've already been doing.
then it wouldn't seem it probably wouldn't seem near as authentic if you went ahead and did a 360 now,
Yeah,
or a 180 now,
they call it selling out.
True, true. I've heard that before, um, on the radio and in person and everything else, but
Everywhere.
which, that's to each their own.
Sure.
Yep. um, so what part of the I know where you're at, but what part of the world are you guys based out of?
We are based in San Marcos, Texas, which is right in between, probably the halfway point about between Austin and San Antonio. Right on the 35 corridor. We all went to school here. There's a university. It's actually Texas State University here in town. We all met going to school here and been playing together for the shorter side of 10 years now.
So most of you guys were in college together.
Yeah, yeah, that's how we met. To make it short, we all kind of played with other people in different bands and stuff. And I met our drummer while we were working together, and he had a roommate who was a guitar player at the time, but we needed a bass player, and so it kind of worked out. That was back in 2015. I think we were probably sophomores in college, sophomores, juniors, and yeah, we did it. We loved music and wanted to just play shows and drink beer or whatever, and we kind of kept doing it. Then we all graduated college, and when that happened, we were like, all right, now it's time to really buckle down. And I think we all graduated in 2017, around there. So we've been together since 2015, but we've been really, really, really kind of dogging it since 2017.
So were you doing the cover stuff, or were you kind of set out on originals from the beginning?
We were always set out on originals, but we did do a lot of cover stuff as well. None of us came from money at all. We were none. I wouldn't say anyone was like dirt poor, but none of us come from money, so we didn't have like a rich uncle or anything to pay for albums. So when we started, I mean, I remember from like our first rehearsals, we were doing original music. But when we wanted to get money together to go record, a lot of the places that book, at least here in Texas, you can make a living off of them. It was like 3 hour, 4 hour shows, a lot of covers, dance hall stuff, all over the place. A lot. We played dive bars and dance halls and juke joints and roadhouses more than anything in the world. And those are all based in like Southern music, but it kind of runs the gamut from dancing country to rock and roll or, roadhouse blues kind of stuff. So we did all of that. And we did a lot of covers. We had a pretty big repertoire of covers, so we can still pull them out if we need to, or I don't know why we would ever need to now, but
Right, right, right.
but yeah, we did a lot of covers. That's how we funded most of our first stuff was by going and playing 3 4 hour shows. We did that for, I mean, 7 years or so, nonstop. It wasn't until we met a few people early on. I say early on in our original career that
Right.
we got lucky a little bit. Yeah.
So when you were doing those all those different 3 and 4 hour gigs, were you meaning that you kind of changed the flavor of your music depending on where you were playing just to be able to get those gigs?
Oh yeah, we and it's funny, talk about it now. And we used to talk about it a lot. We haven't addressed it in a while, but it makes so much sense why our music's all over the place
Right.
because that was our thing. We used to really pride ourselves on being able to go to a true blue country place and play country songs for people to dance to, and then we would get really excited to go to the crappiest dive bar in town and get beer bottles thrown at us and play really rockin' divey music, and we did all of that, like I said, just to be able to pursue our original stuff. And it was all over the place. We'd play in a weekend. We'd play 3 or 4 shows, and all of them would be different, all over the place.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're right. That probably did lay the foundation of what you guys turned into.
Yeah,
You know what I
it's all
mean?
it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
Well, I mean, I think that's something that we talked to Jared Morris last night, and he kind of mentioned, and I understand what he was talking about, but he made the comment of if you think some guy climbing on a bull is listening to traditional country music in his earphones before he gets on there, you know what I mean? You're fooling yourself. You
Yeah,
know,
that,
yeah,
that's
yes, he's a cowboy, but he's listening to something, to hype him up,
sure.
and so it's whether they want to admit it or not. That's yeah. A lot of people listen to a lot of different stuff. So,
Yeah, and I mean, especially this day and age,
hmm
I feel like with music as readily accessible as it is everywhere, and everyone can get their hands on it very, very quickly. People's, palettes have grown. I think, I don't know, I wasn't alive back in the day when records were out and all that, but like vinyl records, I would imagine there was still a little bit of eclecticism in people's taste, but it was probably more nuanced to what they heard on the radio, and then it
hmm
kind of stayed in that style. But now you can, if you hear one song that you like that's a little bit different, you can go to a playlist and go down an entire rabbit hole of that whole genre, which is really cool. But yeah, nobody's listening to just one thing anymore. It's all over the place.
I know you can't see the comments, but Shorty Drums says, "What's up, Niles?"
What
You
up?
know, you know who that is.
I think maybe, I don't know. I'd have to see the picture.
He's with Cowie.
Oh,
He's
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's a
We
drummer
definitely
for
met.
Cowie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's going on?
that's I like being able to go live on TikTok just because it does kind of give that avenue of some questions. And last time one of the times we were able to do that, somebody that actually had made a meet and greet was in the comments. You know what I mean? So
That's
that's
very cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Uh, I guess speaking of that, something I like to ask because the questions or the answers seem to be a little bit different. Is like um, when you play a show, whether you're an opener or whatever you're doing, and somebody just found your music and they, because I'm sure you can tell from the stage, you can tell when the light goes off,
Yeah.
when somebody's enjoying it or whatever, and then you meet them at the merch table or whatever. I'm sure that's uh, how is that for you and the band? Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's awesome. We've had a really um, lucky, I guess, time getting to play with a lot of really great acts, supporting a lot of really great acts. So anytime we're in those situations, there's a lot going on between us trying to sell ourselves to the crowd as well as trying to take everything in with playing some of our heroes.
Hmm.
Uh, but anytime you get to see someone really start latching on to what you're doing, it's comforting because it's like a step in the right direction, I guess. We don't really spend a bunch of time worried about what people will think when we're creating the music. But I think anyone that, you know, does art to some degree, whether it's a lot or a little, I think there, when you, especially when you put it out to people,
Hmm.
you want to have some kind of, recognition or validation. It doesn't mean that you base your entire life on it, but we do all of the work that we do without thinking about the people, so that way when we put it out, we hope that it connects with like-minded people. We're just doing what we do, but if we find ourselves in a room with people that like it, that's awesome. So it's always a good kind of confirmation that we're doing something valuable. And if no one likes it, that's all right too. That's happened before. Maybe we just don't do that song anymore. We go on to the next song. That's the great thing about songwriting and playing. We're always going to create. We're always going to do more. So if people like it, we're super stoked. And if they don't, that's all right too. We'll keep getting by.
It just seems like just looking at it from afar and at different shows, it seems like when people buy that shirt or that koozie or whatever, it seems like it, especially with the opener, it seems like it just to shake a hand and know that they made at least a new fan. Um, it seems like it means a lot. So that's one of the things that's always kind of stood out to me, just kind of paying attention and people watching.
Yeah, I think that's the way you put it is a lot more like we get a lot more comfort or happiness out of actually shaking hands and talking to people. When you're playing on the stage, we've been on stages now for, like I said, about 10 years, and it's something that we love to do. But when we're doing that, uh, it's a performance for all the work that we've already done, and it's trying to create that connection. But I
Hmm.
really don't think there's anything more important than having the conversations with people after the show. And that's probably the luckiest that we've been, is getting to play in venues that hold 5,500 people all the way down to 50 people. We played a show at a coffee shop it wasn't our show. We played with one of our friends, just sold out, but getting to hang around all the people and talk to everyone, and they kind of tell you what they like and what they don't like, or maybe they don't tell you that, but they get to tell you what they like. The coolest part about all of it, though, is when all of that is said and done, and all of the "hey man, you're great, nice to meet you" gets kind of shaken off. You get to really start understanding who people are at their core and their base, and going all over the country talking to people from all different places. You kind of find out that everyone is so different, but very much the same as well, which is it's very cool.
Hmm. Just as uh, I'm sure you guys see it, but just a quick little story about it. Went to see Brent Cobb and a fellow named Zach Russell opened up. He's from East Tennessee. None of us were familiar with his work or anything, but my kids were with me to see Brent.
Mm.
But they got to meet Zach they met Brent too, but they got to meet Zach after the show first. And the next day, coming out of my son's room was Zach Russell's music blasting
It's
on his
awesome.
little speaker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean he just turned 18, so it's like that's it showed me, what I mean, that it hits with other people besides myself. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely, man. Absolutely.
And he wasn't really that bought in necessarily one way or the other until he met him. You know what I mean? That
It
sealed the
does.
deal. That
It
sealed
makes
the
a.
deal.
It really does make a big difference. I mean, I think because I remember as a younger guy going to shows, I would always show up early for the opener. It probably had a lot to do with that. I was interested in music and pursuing that kind of career. But I would show up, and all my friends would show up early just because, well, one, we had nothing else to do, but also we wanted to see the openers. And I've met all different kinds of openers all over the years. The ones that were nice and took the time to talk and didn't think too much of themselves are playing really big stages now, and it's awesome.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Yeah, especially you're able to see that firsthand. Has there been any of those that you saw open and you ended up playing for or opening
Yeah.
for?
Oh
Really?
yeah.
So it
Yeah.
came full circle.
Yeah, we've done a lot of, like I said, we've been pretty lucky. We played shows with a good amount of the how would we call them, heavy hitters these
Hmm.
days. Um, like we opened up for, it's been years now since we played with him, but we've played with Parker McCollum and Coetzel both, not at the same time, two different shows. And we like being in this industry as long as we have. There's a bunch of crossover between camps, and we know all the people and all that kind of stuff. Whatever,
Right.
that's not super important, but um, like I said, the main thing that stuck out to me is all of them were super nice. We played with Parker. We were the first band on a bill of four or five. We didn't even expect to talk to him, much less get any kind of feedback. But right after the show, he was super nice, and he just basically told us he liked what we did, and he pointed out like a couple parts from our set that you could only know if you had been watching. And we were like,
Yeah.
man, it's really really cool. At that time, he was like blowing up, mega
Blowing up.
famous. Yeah, and we played, like I said, with a bunch of different people. That's one example that always sticks out in my head because, like I said, we didn't have any reason really being on that stage anyway. But for him to reach out and say something like that, it just shows you that the business entertainment industry has always kind of gotten a rap for having a bunch of egos, which it does. But I truly do believe the ones that make it to the top and kind of stay there to just treat people really well. And that's
Mm.
something we learned, early on.
Shorty mentioned that you opened for William Clark Green.
Oh yeah, we'll be with
Yeah.
him actually this week on Friday in
Oh,
Concan, Texas. But yeah, Will's been great to us, man. When we first when we first released our first album, we got on the same management. We were on the same management with Will for a
mm.
while, and so we played a bunch of shows together. And his one of his old guitar players has produced a bunch of our albums. I'm like really really good friends with his tour manager. We hang out all the time. It's very much like a family kind of thing, and they're awesome. Yeah, we play with Will a lot.
Seems to be a lot of touring musicians are producers also. Like I keep hearing that more and more. All more and more than I would have thought. You know,
Yeah, one right here. I've
really.
been on the road for a while, and I just started producing some kids here in San Marcos that I think are really good. And I think when you when you get involved in the music industry pretty deeply, you start realizing that one, a lot of different people wear different hats, but two, in a practical world, that you need more than one source of income.
Yeah.
And if you have a certain kind of talent that you've developed over time, producing was something I kind of always wanted to do from the time I was younger. Whether I knew it or not, I was always kind of doing those kinds of things. But
Hmm.
the older that I've gotten, and taking more time to develop my songwriting craft, or what, playing guitar, whatever it may be, you learn tricks and tips, and then you kind of start wanting to go do things and put your own stamp on stuff. And so I think that is a super super common thing is touring musicians become producers.
To fill the to like you said as part of a secondary income and also to fill time and I'm sure
Yeah.
it especially like in your case with you having some of those guys just are I guess for lack of better words hired guns for other people but I mean you guys have your a band of your own so I'm sure when you go produce these other kids what I mean the young cats it's gonna probably end up helping you guys in the long run.
It does, yeah. And I had this conversation with one of my buddies the other night. We had just done a session, and we all went to a bar somewhere, and we were talking. And he was kind of ragging on the whole, not ragging in a bad way, but like really drilling in the idea of the community aspect. And that's something that I've always been a big fan of. I think that the more that people help each other succeed, the more everyone succeeds. It's like if when you're helping other people get to where they're going, the people you surround yourself with kind of set a standard, a bar, and when everyone is constantly elevating that bar by helping each other, everything starts to get better. Like all of it does. And so we try really hard, especially here in the San Marcos area. We've been really lucky to kind of find a group they're younger than we are. We've been in San Marcos forever now, but there's this younger group that's kind of coming up, and they're really developing this like strong communal thing. And it's cool to see it and be a part of it, and just try to be around it as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm sure that I'm sure that helps everything, even from the gigs.
Mhm. All
If if you're all kind of fighting the same battle and not fighting each, I mean, it's hard enough to get the gigs and get paid decent and all that stuff and to be
yeah,
fighting other people. So if everybody's kind of on the same, got the same thought, it seems like it would help everybody involved.
yeah, you lose your mind trying to fight against everyone else in the business. There's no point.
And yeah, I
Not to
understand.
mention we all play with each other too. So as a guy who's kind of just starting to get into producing, when I go and we take someone to the studio that, hey, I have this song. Well, now that I've been on the road long enough and I've met a good amount of people, I can be, well, let's try this drummer for this song, or this bass player for this song, or this keys player, or whatever. And you build up this network of people that everyone everyone works together. It's pretty cool.
What about man? I had a question, then I, I lost it. Um, yeah, where was I gonna go with that? Da-da-da-da-da. Anyways, I'm sure it'll come back. There's been several people that have talked about that I've talked to in my just short amount of time of talking to these you Texas guys is there's been I think three that have mentioned that building a community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is great to you don't see that all the time. You know what I mean?
No, you
So
don't. There's a lot of different scenes, even here in Texas, that aren't necessarily the country or Americana or whatever, that really don't help each other out. Like here in San Marcos, for example, when we started, there was a lot of bands that the big thing in San Marcos was psychedelic rock when we were young,
hmm,
a little bit of funk and some indie stuff, indie alternative kind of stuff, and we tried so hard. We beat the pavement day after day after day trying to become friends with all these people. They would all play shows kind of together, but I think we probably did two or three shows total with all those different bands. And whether I mean, we weren't very good back then, to be honest. We were not that good, but we would go watch all these
I
other bands,
understand.
try to make friends with them. For whatever reason, we no one would give us the time of day, and I'm convinced. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm convinced it's because we were labeled quote unquote a country band, even though that's not what we did. But that wasn't the cool thing at the time. It was very very counterculture to what was happening in town. So we wouldn't get invited to that kind of stuff, which was fine. It wasn't. I mean, we would still go hang out and try to be friends with all these people. But the more and more we got involved in those circles, the more and more we realized they were all kind of not very good to each other, even though they were acting like they were.
Yeah.
And it was a really weird thing to see. And like our guitar player too, he comes from a pop punk. I wouldn't call it pop punk. He comes from more of like a rock, indie rock, pop punk, all the stuff that's not country. That was his background before he joined our band. He was playing with a bunch of different bands and pop
Hmm.
acts and all that kind of stuff. But he's told us about kind of the scene in Austin where he was, and how you know cutthroat and not in a good way it was. Everyone's just trying to get ahead of each other, not really helping each other out. And I think everyone in our band has always really hated that idea, whether it has to do with music or not. I don't think any of us are that kind of person. Um, and so, when we all got together, we kind of just set it out to that. If people wanted to hang with us and party with us and play with us, we were going to do it because we enjoyed it. We met a good group of guys. Took a while, but we did meet a group of guys that we get along with really well. And we've kind of pushed through it together through all the battles that come with it. But yeah.
I remembered my question, and I'll try to keep it in mind through
Okay.
this. Uh, Even in the Memphis area, I mean, like I said, I play in just a cover band,
Hmm.
but they still a lot of one. There's not an original scene at all, in my area, like
Yeah.
zilch. Um,
That's
but
Beale Street, right? Is Memphis?
that yeah, but if you go to you'll be lucky to hear any blues on Bill Street. It's like you know what I
Yeah.
mean. There's
Yeah.
a club or two, but most of them are playing the same stale classic rock songs that everybody else is.
Sure.
You know, it's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same. It's same thing no matter where you go.
Yeah.
But they try to keep that circle closed. You know, there's like a group of old heads that have been doing this stuff. I mean, I'm kind of old too, but you know
Me too, man.
that try not to let anybody else in the circle. You know,
Yeah.
and I'm not much of a politician when it comes to all that stuff. So I'm like, well, screw it. I'll find other places to play. So I guess my point is, when you even in the music business and not just weekend, you know, musicians, it's nice to know that that's on people's minds to have a community of stuff like and support songwriting, the business side of it, everything. You know that's cool for sure.
All of those other, I think all of the big things that have happened over the years, whether it was the grunge scene or the California LA
Yeah,
scene or the songwriter thing in Nashville, all of that, it's very very competitive. It is, but I mean, there's things like Don Henley and Glenn Fry from the Eagles playing with Linda Ronstadt before they get their start, and then pulling players from Poco to be in their band. The whole like Soundgarden, uh,
yeah, Pearl Jam.
Pearl Jam thing, the crossover there. It's
Hmm.
just
Yeah, yeah.
whether they were aware of it or not, it's community, and I'm sure they were. But when you're really super super dialed in on what you're doing and you're focused on that, and no one's gonna stray you away from it, it makes it so much easier to be friends with other people and support other people because you're not competing for the same thing. No one's if anyone is competing over the same thing, then they're probably not doing original music. They're not being very original about
Yeah.
it. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, yeah, that's usually the way that goes. The thing I was going to ask is you were talking about going out and opening for Parker and things like that. When you hit those shows like that, because these days with Spotify and social media and everything, you have all the analytics right there in front of you.
Mhm.
Can you see the spikes in activity from all from whatever it is, merch or streams or whatever, when
Oh
you
yeah,
do shows like that?
yes, and that's been. I think we're kind of aware of it now, but none of us are. Like I was a business major in college and an advertising major. I was an advertising major and a business minor in college. Um, but running a band is sometimes different. It's like it's creating a unified voice for a bunch of different guys. So it's not like it's my voice or whatever. But one thing that we've not really excelled at is capitalizing on those things. But absolutely, you see those pops. Like we'll go play a weekend. We did a 3-day tour, 3-day weekend with Colton Moore last year, and we did Austin, Dallas, and Houston, and we killed it in merch. Did great on our socials. Our Spotify numbers like jumped immediately. All of our socials got a bunch of engagement. Where we didn't do well was like we should have followed up and gone back to those markets not very
Mm.
long after and kind of headlined our shows. So that buzz kind of dies off. But I think the whole thing is a machine. So whenever you get pops like that, that little gas gets thrown in the fuel, you have to floor it and just go and do as much as you can so you can keep the momentum rolling.
I'm sure it's hard though when you're in San Marcos and you get pops at a Nashville show. It's not like it's right around the corner. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that has happened too. We played we did a lot of out of state stuff with Will when we first started, when we first released our albums. And we would get a pretty good, recognition and following. But then trying to get back out, we would spend all of our money on that tour, so we couldn't go back, for a while. And then, just the way that it is, especially nowadays, you have to be foot on the gas all the time with content and social media, and that's not complaining at all because everyone has to do it. It's a level playing field. I'm not. That's not a
Yeah.
woe is me kind of thing. It's just that. to fund everything that we're doing and to stay busy like that. All of our guys, except for myself, and I think our guitar player, have full time jobs. So I do it. I do this full time. I'm playing all the time, so I can get content myself. Where we run into a problem is if it's just me, and I'm filming everything I do throughout the day to stay relevant. All of a sudden, the band is not the band. The band is me, and everyone's thinking that I am the band, which that's not the truth, and that's never been the case. We are a band. That's how we've always done things. So we've found ourselves in a tricky situation, and like I said, that's not really an excuse. We just got to get more creative, and it's something we're working on right now. But you have to be on top of it all the time.
Hmm. Yeah, that's something that I wouldn't have really thought about. But I guess in the past, the only way to get those eyeballs and ears was to pound the pavement, and now there's both. You got to keep up with both. Which I say
Yeah.
you got to keep up with both. You can still pound the pavement and do all that, but at least now there is another opportunity. I mean, I guess possibly could have a hit song with never leaving your hometown. You know what I mean? I guess
It's starting to happen more often now. It is.
but still, at least now there's and you're in control of that, and whether you want to be or not, you're in control of all. Instead of relying on somebody that may not have your best interest, you never
Sure.
know.
Yeah, and I think the music industry always changes. It's like always evolving. So when people ask me, like younger guys, they're like, "Well, man, what do you think I should do?" I always tell them, "There's two ways you can do it. You can go and hit the road, and you're gonna, if you can keep the same players, you're gonna get really, really good. But it's probably going to take longer. Or you could just be staying at home and recording a bunch because recording is easy, cheaper now to do. I wouldn't say easy, but if you could learn how to record your own songs and do all your content yourself, you could develop a pretty strong fan base before you ever leave. And that's happening, like I said, more and more often. We're seeing, um, especially here in Texas, but we're seeing a lot of kids uh, have one or two songs take off on TikTok, and then they're at a festival, a huge festival, that week or whatever it may be. And I think like it's pretty easy to get bitter about that stuff if you let yourself. But if you kind of look at it from a different perspective, it's just the way things go. Like there's always going to be the next thing that happens, and then the next artist that happens with that thing. There was Napster, then there was Spotify, then there was
Right.
bunch of different things. Like it all happens. So you could sit there and spend all the energy it takes to whine and cry about it, or you could just get with it and keep moving. That's all you can do.
I'm sure that can be a little. I'm sure that can be great, for a young artist like that to have that happen. But also, I'm sure it can be. I'm sure there's a negative side to it, also, as far as being able to play, like you said, being able to play a festival this weekend. But then what happens 3 months from now? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Are they gone just as fast? And that could be rough.
Yeah, and I've thought about that a lot too. Because there's the what seems to be the argument right now with a lot of guys that I know that have been doing it for a long time. When these younger guys are popping off of TikTok, they're getting pretty annoyed by it, and I understand why. But those guys have to deal with I guess the consequences, or however you want to put it, that they're maybe not ready to play those big live shows, but they're still getting to play them. Whereas the problems that we had as a younger band, those guys will never have to deal with the same way we don't have to. Like our band, when we go play right now, if we were to go get called to do a festival or support slot for 60 minutes, um, other than being excited, there wouldn't really be any emotion. Like we wouldn't get nervous about it. We've done that a plenty of times. We've been on the road doing all that.
Right.
Those younger bands have to deal with going into those situations and not really knowing how it works. So that's kind of their own uphill battle. Whereas our uphill battle was getting on the road and getting beat up all the time. Everyone has their own battles, and I think
Mm-hmm.
as the music industry evolves, it's never going to be I wouldn't say that there's a big sliding scale of how much harder it is for the younger kids than it was the older guys. Because back in the day, everyone wanted a record deal, and they were not giving those out to everybody. Like
Right.
talking way back in the day. So it's just I think as the times evolve and things change, so do the people with it, and just kind of roll with it.
So what about the? Do you think that's easier in some ways because you're with a group? You know what I mean? You got a bunch of guys kind of fighting this thing, and I'm just thinking of like a if it's a young cat that gets like you said gets a chance to play these festivals or whatever, he's just going to get hired guns. Nothing wrong with that, but he's going to
Sure.
be kind of on an island. Um, I know he'll have support and he'll have a higher, his band and all that kind of stuff. But it's not a group. It's not as much of a group effort as what you guys have been through. You're going into that as, you know, as a team.
Yeah, and we've always set it up that way. I think that's how we've always wanted to do it. A lot of our favorite artists are that way. Um, but with being a solo artist, there's definitely more pressure. You have to one, you have to pay everybody, which is extremely hard. But and it's give and take. When you're a solo artist, you have to pay everyone. But if you blow up,
It's all your
you
reward.
it's all your reward. Yeah, and with a band, you can kind of share some of the responsibilities a little bit. But if you blow up, you're still splitting with everyone. Um, I will say this though, with bands that blow up, there seems to be a little bit more of a
Mm,
I don't know how to explain this. There's like a
doesn't seem to be
the
as
this
much come and go. They seem to stay
yeah,
for.
exactly. They have stability. Um, I'll explain it this way. We've toured with a bunch of different artists, and I was having a conversation one time with a tour manager of a band, and we were on this band's tour bus, partying, and I was like, "Man, this bus is huge. It's very very nice." And we were talking about another artist bus that we had been on earlier that day, who was a solo artist, and I was like, "It's crazy the difference is because like they're both playing the same size show."
Hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, it's crazy the band can afford this, and that other bus, there was nothing wrong with it. It's still a tour bus. We're in a van, but that other bus was just smaller and whatever. And he was like, well, that's the difference between his money versus their money. Which when you're all in it together, you're running that business more as like a traditionally the way a business would be run. There's other people involved in decision making, and when you're just a solo artist, there are other people. There's management, all that kind of stuff, but for better or worse, one person is calling the shots, and that could be a great thing. It could be a really bad thing. But the way I like to do things has always been on a team. I think it's how I excel.
I agree. I mean, just in my little corner of the world, what I do. I mean, yeah, I do gigs by myself, but I like playing music with my friends more than
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I mean, both are fun, but it's you can't beat the vibe when it's your buddies.
Well, yeah, I've done all three. I have done a lot by myself. I've done a lot with my band, and my best buddies, and I've also done a lot with people I have met that day. And the best ones are always the ones you play with your buddies.
Hmm.
It's just how it
Yeah.
goes.
Well, and a lot of that is because it doesn't matter what the gig is.
Yeah,
The gig can go to shit, and you're good.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
know.
And that definitely we've run into that. We'll go play places now where people will, there's something will go wrong with the sound, or there's a fight or whatever, and people are like, "Oh, I don't know how you keep your cool through all that." It's like because we've been playing on the same stages with each other for 10 years, man. That's just how it is.
Yeah, you've seen plenty of fights.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
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 the last one I played by myself, that somebody started fighting, so I played Three Little Birds by Bob Marley while,
yeah.
while they were trying to fight, and
That's
there
funny,
was a
man.
couple of rednecks. They were like, "Man, you ain't right for that." You know what I mean? They called on to it. I'm like, "Yeah, okay. Well, that means you're my people then." You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
That's
uh,
funny.
so as far as I want to make sure we talk about your actual music and everything.
Yeah.
But you guys came right out of the gate writing. Uh, are you do you usually write as a group, or is that kind of on you, or how does that, or has
Uh,
that changed over the years?
yeah, it's changed. I'm the primary songwriter of the band. For the first EP and album, I wrote everything except for I think there was one song that I had to co-write on. I think it was only one on our first album, and then in the second album, um, we co-wrote a little bit more, uh, and we did a cover as well. But I definitely I encourage all the guys to write songs, but I also know that that can be a hard thing to do when it's if you're not doing it all the time, it's hard, especially when you start
Hmm.
a little later, I guess. But the goal is always to have as much collaboration as possible. I'm gonna write songs whether I do it with Shaker Hymns or not. So generally, I bring more of the songwriting to the group. But one thing I feel like we do well is that if there's something that doesn't make sense, or something that doesn't fit, or it's, for lack of a better way of explaining it, it's not cool, they'll let me know, and we work on it and we figure it out together. So there's a lot of collaboration, but it's like the true blue songwriting portion of it. I do most of it.
Somebody in the comments, Tanny Beth, wanted to know the creative process behind "Love in a Bottle," or I'm sorry, the "Love in a Bottle" video.
The so that was there's a bar in town in San Marcos called Chances Are, and it's our favorite bar in town. We go there a lot.
And the Hayes Carl song.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, we go there a lot. Trying to go there less, but we go there a lot. And whenever we released our last album, we knew we wanted to do some live stuff. We are very much a live band. We've had a great opportunity to work with a really, really good producer, Josh Serrato, who did our first two albums, who made us sound great on those albums. But we've always pushed to be a live band. That's what we've always wanted to do. And so whenever we released our last album, we were we were decided that we wanted some kind of live aspect to be part of our promotion. And a lot of our live show is rock and roll. So we decided that we were going to do something a little bit different and do a live full band thing that was kind of like more broken down. And when we were thinking about where we should do it, we went back and forth. Man, should we try here? Should we try there? This, that, the other. And finally, we landed on Chances Are because we were like, well, we already come here all the time. So we might as well, kind of goes back to that community thing. We were like, we should promote this bar since we love it so much. Um, and, try to tie in all the elements together. So we got our old sound guy, the guy that used to run front of house sound for us. He now works for Cody Johnson. He's a guy named Ryan Teely. He's a great engineer. We got him to do all the sound engineering, and then we got another guy named Ryan Flores, who's done two of our music videos to do the entire video shoot. And it was awesome. We got there at, I mean, like I think they closed the bar. They kicked like the last person out, and then we showed up with our van and trailer and worked all night, overnight, from the time that they closed all the way up until the time that they opened up the next day. Uh, and they opened up, and we finished our shoot, and we had some beers and hung out, and then we took off after that.
That's cool. I mean, one that you had the bar would let you do that, but that's the community
Yeah,
part that you mentioned. So
yeah. I mean, we've gotten to the point now where that bar hosts our every time we play in town, they host the Shaker Hymns official after party. So we go and we play this. We play at Cheatham Street. We're normally out of there by midnight, 12:30, and then at 1 o'clock, we normally do give or take around 175, 200 tickets in San Marcos, and I would say about 125 of those people leave Cheatham Street and go straight to Chances Are. And Chances, I think the capacity in there is probably 150 people, maybe 200. So it is slammed by the time we show up.
That's cool. I mean, like we've talked about the community part several times. I know
Yeah,
there's a community of musicians, but that's cool that you can also have that in your area too.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. We've all lived here for so long, and I don't think we're going anywhere for a while. So might as well promote it.
Well, I mean, you apparently you have a pretty good, um, like just a solid fan base right there to that you can always kind of lean on when needed like that. So
Yeah,
that's cool.
some of our favorite shows of the year are the homecoming ones.
It says, pretty sure you've earned the right to record there just based on drink sales.
Yeah, absolutely, for
So
sure.
you rented the spot whether you intended on it or not, right?
Oh yeah, we put some money into the light bill for sure.
Um, so when you put those first that first EP out and everything, how long before you guys were you already touring when you put out new music like or original music like that, or did you um, was the music out first and then you really started touring?
I think whenever we put out Honey, the extent of our touring was like weekend warrior stuff. Anywhere we could play, we do a lot of stuff in and around the area, and then we'd go maybe once a month, once or twice a month. We'd go to different places out of town. We were always trying to go on the road as much as we could, but we didn't have much to show at that time. There was no kind of buzz, so we did a lot of stuff in town. We did our first EP, and we released it in 2017, and we didn't really start picking up like road steam until the middle of 2018. We were playing all the time, but I think around 2018 is right when we started like every weekend out of town kind of thing, playing all over the place. 2019, I entered a songwriter showcase through the Larry Joe Taylor Festival,
Mm-hmm.
which I ended up winning, and then that opened up a bunch of doors. Like 2019, beginning of that year, throughout the rest of it, right before COVID, was one of the busiest we've ever been. It was nonstop. We would go play Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, roll back into town Sunday at 6, 7 in the morning, and then I would play 11 o'clock Sunday morning somewhere. And then I'd be off Monday and then play a Tuesday, dinner show somewhere in town, then back on the road. So it was pretty busy.
So how has that changed for to now? I mean, I know you said your guys, everybody, but you had a 40-hour job. Are they just lucky enough to have an employer to kind of let you get out of town on Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
So at that time, our drummer and bass player were both working um, warehouse jobs. So they would work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That's how they'd get their 40 hours. And then we'd be on the road Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And this, I'm not lying about this in the slightest. We would get back from like Midland or Odessa or Amarillo, who knows. We would get back into town, like I said, 6 or 7 in the morning. And they would have just enough PTO to go home, change. I say go home. At this time, we were all living together. So our van would pull into our house. They would get out of the van, go change, and then go straight to work and work from 7 a.m. till 5, 6 at night or whatever it was. So it was pretty rough times. Now their jobs have changed a little bit. Our bass player has a pretty flexible job. He got a pretty good hookup with when he applied for this job that he told them kind of what the deal was, and they were real supportive. And our
That's cool.
drummer, yeah, our drummer still has this. He's not in a warehouse. I don't know exactly what he does, but he works for Tesla, I think. But he's working overnights now, so we'll get off the road and he'll have Sunday to sleep or whatever, which you would think would be better because he gets off the road late and then he can sleep all day Sunday, but turns out being worse because he's sleep deprived when we go on the road. So he gets off of work, Thursday or Friday mornings at 4 or 5 in the morning, and then we're on the road at 7 a.m. So he's tired going into the whole thing, and he can never catch up on sleep. But it's kind of how we've always done. We've always been that kind of band that just makes it work however it has to, and so that's what we do.
Yeah, that's. I try to ask those road questions like that because I don't think a lot of people realize how tough how tough the van touring can be. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I mean, not to say that everybody thinks it's glamorous, but it's just you know, it's not for the weak for sure.
a lot of our friends, they get real excited. They're like, "Man, let me go on the road with y'all. Y'all look like you'll have a bunch of fun." And we're kind of seasoned vets now at this point. It's still not fun for us, but we've done it long enough. We kind of know the tricks of the trade. But we'll have friends come on a, they'll leave with us on a Thursday, and then Friday comes, and they're like, Friday night comes, and they're already struggling. Saturday morning, they're like, "Dude, get me home. I know, like, I can't do this anymore." And they're
I'm
like,
sure
"Yeah, man."
that's fun.
It's hilarious because we're like, "Man, this is what we do all the time. This is how we live." And then you start realizing that you're not really living like a normal person. It's very
No,
against the grain.
no. I got to the chance to uh, see Taylor Honeycutt and talk to her. We actually got to interview her, and she one of the first things she said was she said, "Man, I tell you, when I first started all this stuff, I really didn't give enough love to the toilet in my house."
Yeah,
She said, "I miss shitting in my own toilet."
that and
and,
sleeping
and,
in
and
your own bed, man, nothing beats it.
yeah, yeah, which and I'm like, man, I just love my recliner. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not built for
Dude,
that part of it. Um, Again, that goes back to the old the band thing. As far as I'm sure you guys go through some stuff on the road. I'm sure you have seen some pretty crazy stuff along the way.
we have. Yeah.
Any I guess PG-13 stories that you could share that
Uh,
some funny story or something that crazy that might have happened.
I can share this story. It's the first one that comes up to my head.
Okay.
Uh, it's not really two parts, but it's kind of two parts. There's a venue that we've played more than once. The last time we played there, it was a while back, but there was a bunch of drama, and they threatened not to pay us. This whole thing that happened, and we left because we were like, "Man, we're not going to stay here and cause a scene. If that's what they think, then we'll deal with it tomorrow. We'll, call our management or whatever." So we leave, and I didn't remember this. The second part of the story I'm going to tell you. We leave, and we had one of our friends with us who used to be in our band. He's not in our band anymore, but he's still one of our really good friends. Um, and we were talking about it, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm really confused why they were acting the way they did." I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Man, because they long story short, the venue thought that we might have been overserved. Whether we were or not, who knows? It's
Mm-hmm.
don't have a time machine to go back there and look at it, but uh, they thought we might have been overserved." My buddy was like, "I don't understand why they were saying that, because we were all pretty, whether we had drank or not, we're always respectful. We're always going in and yes,
Right.
ma'am, no, sir, that kind of thing." Uh, but he was like, he reminded me that the last time we had played there before that, which was years before, but we had played there years before. And he was like, "When I remember we were here last time, they shut the bar down at like, I don't know, midnight, I guess. But they didn't kick us out, and they got us so drunk. Like I said, I don't remember this part, so he could be making it up. But he said that someone in our band, who I won't say, was like running across the tables. They had tables in this bar, like running across the tables and pouring shots into everyone's mouth while they were doing that. We had like blared rock and roll music, The bar was loving, like their staff was loving it. We had a great time. But when I thought about that, I was like, man, that just kind of describes. So all of us just turned 30 recently. We're put on the other side of 30 now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that story, and I was like, that just describes our first, I say our first van. We were about 25, 24, 25, maybe when we bought our first van. I
Right.
was like, that just describes our first van, did those days so perfectly. We were just unstoppable. I
Right.
mean, we were just a menace to society back then. But that's that kind of stuff. You outgrow. Hopefully, we'll still get after it with buddies. At the lake or whatever. But when we're working, we're on the road. And, we got to clock in and do our jobs now.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
You got a. Are you up to play a tune?
Yeah, man. Let me grab my guitar real quick.
All right, no problem. So everybody that's in the chat, what y'all think so far? I know he's about to hop out of here, but Shorty is the only one that says he's old. uh, I believe everybody in here is old compared to Shorty.
All right. Oh, let's see.
Yeah, man, it's your call.
All right. I will play this song. It was the first song I wrote for our most recent album. It's called Prayers. I just did a live recording of it with this media outlet called Texas Hill Country Provisions, Chill Country Sessions. Um, and I forgot how much I like this song. So I'll play this one. It's called Prayers. Like I said, it was the first song that I wrote for the album. And it kind of introduced the characters to me that would be on the album. Yeah, it's called Prayers.
When did this come out?
This came out on our last album, which was
Okay,
July of last year, 2023.
got you.
I see the way your eyes look roaming all around. I see the way you're hiding, hoping to be found, setting fire to P's and Q's, singing it's all over now, baby blue. I hear your shallow breathing, shouting for the hill. You voyage through the valley in a Pontiac Bonneville. It's not much, but it gets by. Roll the window up and cry alone. Another pink slip on the door. You can't even afford to call home. Then it's one more smile in a vacant room. Gotta have the rent paid by noon, and oh, when you cry, lock the front door and light a cigarette. Put the cross back on your neck. Prayers to you and yours for me and mine. I, I feel your dedication quickly losing hold. The whole world's on vacation. Your coffee's getting cold. Table 3 needs extra toast before they head out to the coast for the week. And if you're lucky, they'll pay cash to make up for that dine and dash. You can leave. Then it's one more smile in a vacant room. Gotta have the rent paid by noon, and he won't let you cry. So lock the front door and light a cigarette. and put the cross back on your neck. Prayers to you and yours from me and mine. And now money for love is getting old. When you're done and change is all that's left to hold. So turn the lock, pull the pink slip off the door. 'Cause you're not hiding. No, you're not hiding anymore. Then there's one more smile in a vacant room. You gotta have the rent paid by noon, and you won't let him see you cry. And lock the front door, light a cigarette. Put the cross back on your neck. Prayers to you and yours for me and mine. I said prayers to you and yours for me and mine. Mhm.
All right. Yeah, man, that was good.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah, got comments over there and everything. Um, a couple quick questions. We'll let you get out of here.
Amen.
What what was your as far as popular music? What was your first concert?
My first concert, I'm pretty sure, was Alabama at the San Antonio Rodeo. My dad used to take me and my mom every year to go watch Alabama every year, except one year we
Yeah,
went and watched Josh Turner because I think we couldn't make it the day Alabama played. But yeah, it was Alabama at San Antonio Rodeo.
yeah, that's cool. What was in high school? What was one of your go to bands
Whew.
in those days? What was
Um,
In Sync, Backstreet Boys? Which one?
trying to remember who was I listening to in high school. I listened to a bunch of different stuff in high school. As far as bands that I was listening to, it probably would have been, actually, oddly enough, in high school. One of my go-to bands was Weezer. I was a big Weezer fan when I was younger.
No, that's cool.
Yeah,
And the crazy part is, I'm quite a bit older than you are, but they were out when I was in high school too.
really,
So,
yeah. So,
yeah, yeah. The Blue album came out. I'm pretty sure I was in middle school when that came out. So,
I think it was I think the album was called Perfect Situation, or it was the one that had Beverly Hills on it. That came
mhm.
out when I was in middle school, and I think maybe I was in like seventh grade or something. But I listened to that all throughout high school, all the Weezer stuff, all throughout high school. That
It's probably still though that Beverly Hills. Whenever that song comes on, I'm sure it gets turned up, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah,
of course,
still now, right?
yeah, it has to, man. That them Guns N' Roses and Avenged Sevenfold were like that's really what I was listening to back then, as far as bands go.
Yeah. Um, I just like to see what everybody, different folks say different stuff. Like my first concert was actually Sawyer Brown, so it's kind of a
Really,
yeah off the beaten path a little bit. I mean, I was young. I was like,
some girls don't like boys like me.
exactly. I mean, I barely remember it, but still, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and the last and I guess the most important question we have to ask this on everybody that I remember to ask: what is your favorite Little Debbie cake?
I think it's a Little Debbie, but I'm pretty sure they discontinued it. The Banana Twins, do you know what those are?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I don't know if those are Little Debbie or not.
I think they
Uh,
are.
yeah, if they
In the
are,
little
that's my
package
favorite.
with the two little things
Hmm.
together. Yeah,
Those are my favorite. If those aren't Little Debbie, then it would be the strawberry shortcake rolls. Big fan of those.
got you. Got
Yeah.
you. I think that's the first. The most popular answer is being the Christmas tree cakes. I think. I think that's
Oh
probably the most
yeah.
popular. But
That's just seasonal, so I don't think about it all the time.
Yeah, and the ones that say there's just zebra cakes, they get kind of like chewed out. Like people that like Christmas cakes are pretty
Yeah,
passionate.
it's
Yeah, they're
it's
very passionate about it. So,
yeah, it's like
all right,
beans and
man.
chili.
Man, I'll let you get out of here and everything. I appreciate the time. If
Yeah,
anybody that's watching on TikTok now or happens to listen to this thing, make sure you go follow Shaker Hymns everywhere you can follow them, wherever you stream your music. Go hit that follow button and share the shit out of all their stuff. You can clearly tell, you know, they're buddies making music. You know what I mean? So
that's
um,
right.
go and support all of that.
Yeah, man, absolutely.